You're an advocate in regard to human rights, and you've traveled almost every place in the world talking about human rights. Human rights in Jamaica.
Human rights in Jamaica in the sense of the right to participate in politics, to vote, superb. None better in the world. Human rights in terms of law, constitution, all that is correct. Human rights in terms of people who speak out for it without repression, superb. So from all those points of view, all those criteria, we pass the test with flying colors. But you know, human rights have to be understood in a deeper context, which is our people in a process of freedom that also is accompanied by economic security and all the other things that we hope for Jamaica. Or, for instance, if they do commit a crime, they're in a prison system that is, you know, humane and fair. From that point of view, I don't think we're doing very well. If a person is killed by a secret group on behalf of the state, as would say happened in Haiti before Aristide, that is a palpable abuse of human rights, the worst you can imagine. But what are the human rights of a person who is a witness to a crime, and where there is, as yet unchecked in your country, a situation where the accused just takes out a contract and the witness is dead, if they think that that witness has the evidence to put them in prison? Is that not also a terrible abrogation of human rights?
But
it is more at that level.
yes.
Or say what might happen in the lockups or eventually on death row. Those are the more visible signs of, you know, diminished human rights. But there's a deeper one that I just described.
Mr. Manley, a lot of critics and a lot of analysts, and indeed, you don't need to analyze the situation. Jamaica is in trouble. There are people in inner cities moving out of those areas because of crime, be it political, be it domestic. How do you see what is happening to us today, and where are we going?
Well, I think I see it in two senses, in two contexts almost. I think there is no question that Jamaica has to find the formula which will move it to a greater level of efficiency and capacity to compete in a global marketplace. This nobody can dispute. I think that part of the answer to that is not being as vigorously pursued as it should. And not, I don't say by us, but in our region. We're not getting the cooperation we should get about the integration process, which I discussed earlier. But that is another matter. And therefore, to the extent that right now there is imposed a very strict economic discipline to try to almost jerk us through to another stage of efficiency, it's absolutely correct. The truth is that, you know, when you look back over the history, independence, the first 10 years reality is obscured by the tremendous inflow of bauxite investment money and tourist investment money. No quarrel, I mean, lucky that we had it. But it kept us from perceiving certain realities about the process of efficiency. In the 70s, you know, I heavily criticized by the overemphasis on social justice and trying to spend more than you should. Frankly, often to see that there could be penicillin in the hospitals. You know, it was often as simple as that.
Yes.
But nonetheless, the criticism is made. The 80s is back to another period that's almost totally based on illusion. All the passage of IMF tests in the 80s, because every time we were short on an IMF test, we either borrowed or sold something. And so for whole 80s, a propaganda machine says, look how well you did. Reality which any economist can tell you, is that you were deferring the solution by a totally specious but very clever political kind of strategy, which passed off as good economic management. Again, I'm not quarreling with anybody. Everybody's making mistakes down the road, learning curve. Now you come to the 90s. Jamaica has nowhere else to hide. You can't hide reality by selling more assets, because you really have flogged them all. You can't hide reality by pursuing the massive borrowing of the 80s, because you borrowed beyond what you can service. And you have to face it, you can't do more to help socially than you can pay for at any given moment.
That's right.
And you don't have any huge new industry to exploit like oil or bauxite. So all those things that obscured reality are finished. But you have to get through a period of discipline. Even with the liberalization of the dollar, we were slow to learn the enormous discipline that the running of that kind of macroeconomic system requires. I've often said it's like the difference between an old Volkswagen Beetle, the state control of anything up to Seaga's time. And that when you did the liberalization, it's like you move into a Formula One racing car. It'll take you at a tremendous speed if you consider you don't run off the track altogether, if you follow me. I go to a deeper question, though. Let me tell you, in 1993, all the objective criteria suggested that we were on the verge of a major takeoff. Controls were relaxed too quickly, things got out of balance. The dollar collapsed in 93 by the end of the year, and in the new high interest rate regime which had to follow, you got the whole pullback of expansion. Now you have another period. If Omar has his way, by the end of a year of tough discipline, you will have at last, I think, brought the economy back into macroeconomic balance and viability. And if that happens, I would guess that when the interest rates then come down, you can get a marvelous period of growth and expansion in 97. That's my own hope, watching it. But you ask a deeper question. Is that enough? I don't think it's enough here or anywhere. I think you more have to look at the question, if you get it all in balance, how do you get back to a sense of strategic direction in which people can believe, in which they can invest their hopes, etc. And that, of course, to me is a very big question that everybody should be wrestling with.
Well, there's the question of the bread and butter issue. Question is, the reality is, presently, 500 people are going to be laid off in terms of the financial institutions. 75% of one major insurance company has already laid off. What happens? What is going to be the social fallout of all of this?
Well, this is not what is it going to be. What is it already? You know, this has been happening in other areas from before.
Yes.
And obviously, layoffs that affect what we call the working classes are a reality. Layoffs that affect what we call the middle classes are the same reality. And nobody's pretending it's not a tough period. But I don't think you can get through this period without the social fallout. The real question is, what is your capacity to help by retraining people to fit into new opportunities that open up? And in a deeper sense, is there some path for social engineering that reignites faith and hope? Because, you know, people will take a lot of pain and really be distressed if they hold on to the belief, it's tough, I'm hanging in there, my family, you know, we're working on internal share pot to survive. Somebody's getting a little work here and there, but it's worth it in the long run because I see
the light.
I see the light.
Yes.
And I think it is how to find that light. I repeat, that is the great challenge to the present generation of politicians.